Step 7. I was forced to wait a few weeks before continuing on to Step 7. My body was battered, almost to its very limit, and I was forced to visit an actual hospital. It was there I was told that my foot had several small fractures in multiple places. So small a cast wouldn't do much, and I'd be forced to live with a limp for the rest of my life. Later in life I'd develop arthritis in that foot, before not being able to use it at all. This bothered me little, because it was all part of the plan of being able to see her again. I knew that with her back, all the pain and torture I've been through, and will be through, would be worth it. I slept for 27 hours once I arrived home after completing Step 8. I spent the next few weeks healing and resting, mentally preparing myself for Step 7. And when it finally came time to start Step 7, most of my bruises and cuts had already faded. Step 7 was also known as the 7 candles, or the 7 sacrifices. To begin, I cleared out my dining room of all furniture, and spray painted a large black circle in the center of the room. I then went and bought 7 unscented candles and spaced them out as evenly as I could around the circle. I took a box of matches and slowly lit each candle. When the final candle ignited, Step 7 began. The world fell away around me until only darkness remained, a darkness that was illuminated by 7 candles. I sat for a moment in the center of the circle, preparing myself for what I had to do. I had planned ahead of time, but that didn't make anything easier. I sat before the first candle and plucked a strand of hair from my head. I placed it at the base of the candle and sat back. The flame flickered, then turned an ominous green. Accepted. At the next candle, things got a bit more difficult. Each candle demands a sacrifice, each greater than the last. At the second candle, I held a pair of pliers that I had brought into the circle with me. I placed the pliers between the nail of my right thumb and pulled. With agonizing slowness, the nail peeled away from the flesh. I held it up, holding my injured hand against me before placing it down before the candle. Just like before, the candle flickered and turned green. Accepted. Quickly before my body could react and stop me, I stuck the pliers in my mouth and yanked hard on one of my teeth. Regrettably, the tooth didn't come out with one hard yank. Instead, the pliers pulled the tooth halfway out of its socket, then lost its grip. I cried out in pain as blood gushed from the wound. I could feel the tooth dangling by a few strands of tendon. And once again, before I could react, I plunged the pliers back in and ripped the tooth out. It clattered to the floor, and I sat gasping as drool and blood poured from my mouth. I spat a glob of blood and picked up the tooth. It was bloody, and I could see some strands of tendon still attached. I placed it down before the next candle and watched. It flickered and turned green. Accepted. At the fourth candle, I tossed the pliers aside and brought out the large fabric scissors I had stowed away in my pocket. I slipped the shoe off of my injured foot and pulled off my sock. I stared down at my swollen, almost numb foot and aligned the scissors up with my pinky toe. Taking a deep breath, I snapped the scissors shut as hard as I could. The pain was numbing, and I watched the toe roll across the floor and landed directly before the candle. Flicker, green, accepted. I pulled the sock back onto my bloody foot and slipped it painfully back into the shoe. I would have to bandage everything later, but for now, I had to keep going. At the fifth candle, I brought the scissors up to